We are three friends exploring connection from the coffee shop to the podcast studio. I'm Amy.
I'm Anna.
I'm Aaron.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. Glad you're here for episode number 4. The topic today is how to ruin a friendship.
Gotta be the worst friend ever.
Yeah. Awesome.
Alrighty.
So we're going to start off with a couple notes from our listeners and with some feedback.
Oh, yeah. Reviews.
No?
Yeah. Let's do some reviews.
Yeah. All right, here we go. So we heard from Rebecca F., and she said, yes, this is exactly what the world needs now. A podcast all about meaningful connection. I feel this is going to resonate with so many people. Thanks, Rebecca.
Yeah.
Thanks, Rebecca.
That's
That's
so nice.
And she gave us a 5-star review.
All right, and we got another one here from Chantel. She says, thank you, loved it, felt less alone. I was so surprised how less alone I felt just by listening, and I am accepting the 3-question challenge.
That is so cool.
Thank you, Chantel.
Yeah,
Thanks for the 5 stars. Yeah, can't wait to hear how that goes.
That's so awesome. Yeah, your reviews help the podcast be found, and we're so thankful for those because it's literally the easiest thing you could do is just to share it with your friends as we try to get this off the ground.
Yeah, keep them coming.
And it's also so great to hear just feedback about what you're thinking, how you're liking it, all that stuff. It's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Also, so we had a great share from @Happiness is my jam. She shared a picture of her coffee cup. It was so sweet. Cool. We're like, oh,
that was so sweet.
I handle the social media for our Instagram, and I had to forward it to Aaron and Amy, and it's just like, look how sweet this is. So thanks for sharing the love, and we love seeing your pictures.
Because it was a picture of her Starbucks cup, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, with a big thank you on it.
Good detail to add there.
Add the pieces in? Well done.
Yeah, add those pieces in. So yeah, so great.
So the listener challenge, the listening
challenge.
Yes.
Yeah.
How did it go?
So it went really good. It was it was last episode that I said that when I had done this in the past, I had gotten the feedback of like, oh my gosh, I've never shared this with anyone before, or like, why am I telling you this? And then this week when I worked on it, I had a friend tell me that, okay, we had coffee. It sounds like I just am always having coffee. I work at a coffee shop a lot of times, so
I think you are always having coffee.
This is why I'm all like hopped up. Like I drink a lot of coffee apparently. But so I met a friend for coffee, and then the next day she said that she's like, I felt so giddy after we hung out. So I took that as like a good sign.
Oh, that is good.
Yeah, I was like, that's nice. Like I don't know what I did. I worked on listening really well and asking questions. So I mean, that was pretty good feedback. How'd it go for you two?
I noticed that when I ask questions and then you give space for a pause and then just sit in that with whoever's talking, it is amazing what comes out of like how the person opens up and shares after that. But if there is no pause and like waiting for whatever to percolate inside, then you don't get that. And so for me to take a breath, because I just want to keep on like firing things off, it has opened up, like then it unfolds the conversation to a place where I did not anticipate it going.
That's so cool. You know what I just pictured when you said unfolding? A bloomin' onion. Aren't those things amazing?
Oh, what?
Bloomin' onion from Outback.
Oh my God.
Aren't those so delicious?
So random.
I was like unfolding like a bloomin' onion.
Oh my God.
I was waiting for this profound, like, tell me what's unfolding. The lotus flower. No, this blooming onion from Outback.
Those things are so good. I haven't had any of that forever.
I don't think I've ever had one, but I think, aren't they also like a fair? You can get them at a fair.
Probably.
Maybe next to the funnel cake?
Yeah, exactly.
Fried butter?
Exactly.
Maybe.
Oh, yeah, it's a deep fried situation.
Yeah.
With like you dipping in some, like a Thousand Island Ranch situation. Oh, my word.
Oh.
So delicious. We got to go to Outback.
I don't know about that.
No.
I don't eat meat. Come on now.
A blooming onion is an onion.
That's right.
Oh, boy. All right, I'm going to take us back.
Okay,
here we go.
Captain
I'll tell
Focus.
you, yes, here we go. I think my listening challenge I really, with my son this week, I focused on it the most and just really trying to, both my kids, but also just thank them for whatever they want to talk, like, I'm so glad you could tell me this, or of course you can tell me anything, or, and then just really listening and being patient and, giving them the space they need. And I don't know, I think sometimes like kids or, younger people don't always get the same listening, respect, or I don't know what it is, but just the same listening from adults that like you might give a friend. So
I think it is respect.
I think it is respect too. Yeah. So I really that's like my big focus right now. It's just really trying to be engaged and listening.
I was somewhere, I think out at a restaurant or a coffee shop, and there was a woman with a really little kid, and she was so intently paying attention to this kid, and it was so beautiful to watch because the kid was so excited to be talking to her, and she was so in it, and it was this like magical moment at this table.
That's so cool.
I think it's a big deal when kids, because I don't think they get the same space.
No, I don't.
People
either.
are trying to rush them all the time.
Right.
And they often need a lot of rushing.
Yeah. I mean, well, because I think like their little brain, it's like there's just a process, obviously, like processing so differently. And sometimes you want them to be up.
Come on.
It's like, let's get a move on.
Yeah. But man, sometimes those little tangents are.
Yeah. Well, and if kids
I don't always rein in the tangents that my kids go on. Let's put it that way.
Amy does a great job for Anna and I.
Yeah,
so
that's super helpful.
Yeah.
Well, and if kids don't feel like heard with the little things, then they won't feel safe to tell you the big things. And so it's like making space and even just having eye contact with them. It's so huge.
All right. So what else are we doing here?
So today's topic is how to be the worst friend ever. And we heard some really great things on our social media about what you all said. So last week we talked about how to be a good friend. And this week is all about how to be a bad friend. So Sarah Y actually this one is on my personal Facebook profile. She says, the qualities of a bad friend would be someone who never listens to me and only ever wants to talk when they need to vent. Someone who makes plans and consistently flakes on me. Someone who's always willing to offer me solutions based on their own experience, but never willing to just let me feel my feelings without being awkward about it. So good.
Yeah.
And then Deanne G says, a bad friend is someone who blames everything wrong and blames you for everything wrong in their relationship. Yeah. So lots of things, lots of feedback. Gabrielle T said, same basic things that would make you a bad boyfriend or girlfriend. I've known people that I swear were in emotionally abusive relationships. One that doesn't respect the other's boundaries, and the other had a hard time asserting herself with that person and can't bring herself to leave the friendship. So
So various ideas about respect and showing up for people and reciprocal relationship. So what does it mean to be a bad friend? What does that look like? And so the first thing that we had on here was that one-sided friendships. And so what do one-sided friendships look like?
Yeah, gosh, one-sided friendships. I would say always feeling like you're giving without receiving, and then, or just getting dumped on and not listened to. Right. Also, maybe. What about you two?
I think too, like that. We had touched on this, I think last episode, but the advice giving or like unsolicited, like when one friend is always the advice giver.
Yeah.
Solicited or not, I think that can oftentimes be so one-sided that then it's hard to make that one work.
And I think also too, when people don't listen and they like are thinking about other things when you're talking.
Yeah.
So I think that is hard. And I had another one, but it's out of my head right now.
Yeah.
It'll come back.
But I agree with a lot of what the people wrote in and said. You know, like it's just that it's a give and take, right? Like there has to be some kind of equal give and take in a relationship and a respect. And if that's not there, it's going to be one-sided and hard to keep a friendship like that.
Right.
Or any relationship.
Oh, there was a really funny one that Sarah M. Oh no. I forget her last name. at Sarah said, and she said the quality of a bad friend is someone who steals your babysitter.
Oh, I totally agree with that. I totally agree with that. I've had that happen. Yes.
I remember you telling me that you don't share your babysitter when,
I've been burned.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
And it's like, well, that makes sense.
It does make sense.
It's like, ugh, those babysitters, hard to come by.
Precious resource.
And so all this one-sided stuff has me thinking about not only what does it look like, but why do people tend to put up with relationships that are one-sided? And so I don't, some therapists, so then is that tied to self-worth, or they're just tired, or is it trauma because this is what they're used to? And so oftentimes people will repeat the same patterns that they had with whoever their caregivers were or their parents were when they're growing up. And so when we look for friendships, or even when we couple off into whoever our partners are, that if we had toxic things that happened when we were kids, that we will repeat those same patterns, because ultimately people are looking for health in their systems. And so they'll find someone that they energetically and subconsciously can repair that wound with. And so then we'll go and be friends with them. But if the people are not healthy or haven't worked on their stuff, then those same attachment wounds and patterns happen. And then it's super painful to people.
So is this why people tend to go for crappy men?
Or when they're like, I date the same person repeatedly,
and
over
it's
and
just
over and over.
Why
and
is this
over
happening?
again.
Why do they choose terrible people?
Yes. So this, I don't know across the board, but generally people are looking to heal something. Similar to if, maybe this feels off topic, but if someone had a sexual assault, some people are scared to death of being sexually intimate at all. And then some people go very promiscuous. And that's because people want to fix that wound. And so they want to redo that trauma. So then in some ways they can do it. But because they're caught in this loop, then they can't do it because their system doesn't know how to course correct because it's traumatized.
So is there a way to quickly tell us how someone could get out of that loop? I feel like since this got brought up, we should kind of talk about.
Don't just lay that out there and guess. Just kidding.
It's got to be so subconscious.
It is super subconscious.
I mean, having the awareness of even what you just said. It's
oh my gosh, yeah.
Right. I think that a lot of it is doing your own work. And if you have patterns of people that you are generally friends with or romantic partners, and then you notice I always have this thing and this thing and this thing. Why does this, if it's ever coming out of your mouth that you're dating or friending the same types of people that are hurtful and harmful to you, then what is that pattern? And so it's worth looking at. So that's either you can do, there's plenty of self-help books about that. There's therapists that you can go to, or there's all sorts of different resources that people can do, but it's noticing that pattern is happening and then taking the steps to do something differently. But you have to investigate whatever the wound is, or else you just keep on trying to heal it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Totally.
It's not very that's not a life hack. You're definitely not going to leave a life hack with that.
Really
How do I not marry my father? Yeah. There's no life hack for that.
Oh, gosh. Here's a 2-second quick tip for you.
I got nothing for that.
Well, I do have to say, so I actually started seeing Crystal at the Cali Institute and doing EMDR. And the Cali Institute is Aaron's business with Crystal. And I couldn't see Aaron because we're friends.
Right.
So I saw Crystal, and I've been doing EMDR to try to pull at the root ball of any trauma that manifests itself today. And so it's been so powerful doing the EMDR. And actually some members of our Facebook group, the Less Alone group.com or Less Alone podcast group.com, let me correct myself, they've actually mentioned EMDR too.
EMDR is amazing.
I've done it a couple times.
It is amazing.
Yeah.
It's a game changer.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
so amazing.
Because it gets to essentially if you're weeding the garden, right? And if you pick the tops of the leaves off, you've cleared the space for a little bit, but because the roots are still in the ground, then the thing comes back. And so if you can get the roots out, then that particular weed won't grow back. Or if you have a hurt, let's say that you had a huge splinter that went in your arm and it wasn't bleeding anymore, but every time you like touched it, it hurt because it was jostling the wound. So if you took the splinter out, which is also the root of things, then the wound has an opportunity to heal. And so EMDR helps you to do that with all sorts of things. And where that is helpful is the same thing with patterning, is like when the same thing keeps showing up, like why in the present, like why do I keep doing this? Why do I keep, this thing keeps on coming up, or this type of person drives me crazy? Then that's worth taking a deeper look. And it's amazing with the brain science about how that works, because
it's so cool.
It just subtly like changes, and then you're like, I was working with someone along the line, and they had a confrontation with someone, and they were like, worked on it, and then they went back to that situation with that person. They were like, I tried to get pissed at them and I couldn't because it had like just desensitized the emotional reaction to them. And then they were like, I still don't like to be around this person per se, but I don't like want to scream at them, which is a big deal.
It's so powerful. And like, I've used EMDR. We've done a lot with like the peak performance idea of like not just using EMDR to heal past traumas, but to like get to the next level of
propel
like
yourself forward. Yep.
Yeah. So I had some stuff with like doing a speaking gig in Budapest last year, and it was like, okay, how do I get past this fear of public speaking? And so we used EMDR to kind of go to propel forward. So it can be used in that way too.
I think the only reason why I'm able to do this podcast is because I had to do EMDR on my public speaking, because it's sure, like I do that with people, but then I also have done a ton of it myself, and it has been super, super helpful. But I had to use the same
powerful.
thing. Yes.
That's and you so create new pathways in your brain.
Right.
It's amazing. Okay.
Which is great, I mean, that sounds like exactly a resource someone could look into to fix the patterns or to address them.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because ultimately we can't control other people, right? But we can control like how we respond and react to situations. And it's really great when we can get a little bit of space so that we can not react and we can respond. Because when we have space, then there's choice, and then you can choose how you want to handle the situation. So we need that pause. People talk about like the sacred pause. I love that because it's hard to do, and it feels sacred when we can.
For sure. I talk a lot about the pause with the spending.
It's
just like put a pause between you and the purchase, so that you're just building that space in, so that you don't do the automatic response and the automatic like habit. So man, that pause. The pause is powerful.
Yeah, it is.
And on with just to piggyback off EMDR stuff, is that there's this Richard Rohr quote, is that if we don't transform our suffering, then we'll transmit it. And I think this has everything to do with, if we haven't healed whatever it is, then we will throw that up on other people. And I think this has a big relationship to why people are bad friends or can't show up for other people, because a lot of time it's because people, I believe, are doing the best that they can.
Yeah.
And sometimes that best may not feel like it's very good for us, right? But they're doing the best they can. And so, but if they have a lot of shit, then that's what happens.
Yeah. I think about that with parenting, that quote, and just like, if you don't deal with your own stuff, you're going to put it on. I mean, it's just the cycles of, generational cycles and things that happen over and over. And you got to deal with your own stuff if you don't want to continue the patterns or put them on your kids.
To break that cycle.
You're right.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. We have a note here. If you're a D-bag, there's a ripple effect. That was Erin said that.
I work really hard not to curse on this podcast. I'm trying hard. Yeah. So
I was thinking you might miss that. So I was like, wait. We moved on to the next one.
My mouth is terrible. I tried. Yes.
I have a hard time not cussing too, so I totally get it.
It's hard. I left the D in last time because I said we needed that for effect, so we have to put the explicit on the last.
Well, and I ended up sharing that text. We might have to share that text on the Instagram.
I think you definitely have to share that text.
Okay, when you said
it's hilarious.
You were sending me editing notes, and you're like, I think we need to leave the D in.
It was so funny.
D-I-C-K in, and I was like, what? And like, it was kind of like there was a pause. And I was
I didn't even know. I didn't even know. And I'm like, what is she making some joke out of this? I'm like, this is what I think we need to do this. And then and I'm like, oh my God.
Yes.
I'm like, we definitely need to.
Yes. It was a great.
I ended up showing Amy later.
Yes.
It was so funny.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
you were like, you're like the quote being a D.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's definitely Instagram worthy.
Yeah. We're going to have to share that. It was super funny.
Very focused. Like, she's being, just listen. That's what I was thinking. And I'm like, oh, just know that you're being ridiculous. I'm being ridiculous. Yes, good.
I will always find the D jokes.
Yeah, that's true. Uh-huh.
All right. So, have you ever been a bad friend?
Oh,
Who's not been a bad friend?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm not the only one.
Yeah. No, it's definitely not.
Far from it.
Yeah. Yes.
Far
Do we
from
want
it.
to talk about any instances? Okay, so I remember when I was I'm all, do we want to talk about any? Oh, I have a story. Oh, I'm so glad you asked.
Thanks for sharing. This is great.
Well, thanks for asking. I have a story to share. Okay, so back when I was in my early 20s and I was a total D-bag.
Uh-huh.
Totally
Yes.
unhealthy. I have my old college roommate, Shayla. Hey, what's up, Shayla? Little shout out. We ended up, she asked me to be her maid of honor, and I was a bad friend because I did not go dress shopping with her when she wanted. I chose to do yoga instead.
Oh.
Bad friend alert. I was being selfish. And like, so it's kind of like I think about the, like the airplane situation when they're like, put your mask on first. It's like you can't be a healthy friend or a good friend if you are too self-consumed. Maybe that's a bad example. That doesn't really make any sense actually right now.
I'm thinking,
But you have to work on yourself, right?
Well,
Yeah.
that's good boundaries, Anna.
Yeah.
If you needed to go to yoga.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, it wasn't well received, I guess.
Yeah, because it's also important to show up for the bride to be, and
Yeah,
that's a
absolutely.
big deal
Yeah.
to like get your dress, and if you're
Super
in the
big deal.
wedding, and that might be really important to her. So
Oh yeah, and I felt like
sometimes it's important to put your
yeah.
Needs
yoga
on the
needs
side.
aside.
Yes.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, I didn't. This was when I was doing hot yoga like 5 times a week. So it was
Oh.
like, I
Right.
was being a D-bag.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and like that, right? Like your gut
Yeah.
knows whether or not
Yeah, and I was
you were
like,
like happy with the
oh.
friend that you were being.
Yeah, I was not happy with the friend I was being.
It feels
So-
bad whenever you
It
realize.
does feel
It
bad.
feels bad when you do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, Shayla, if I've never told you sorry before.
Right.
Maybe we'll hear from Shayla.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, I talk to her all the time.
Right.
Oh,
So, yeah. Well, how about you two?
Yeah, I feel like in my past when I've been a real D-bag, I just kind of ghost people. It's
Oh.
like, see ya. Or I don't know. And
Good thing we're friends now.
I know I've been
Yeah.
ghosted before. It's just like, I don't know. I think sometimes in my ideal self, and maybe as I get older and probably healthier myself, I'm able to be a little bit more authentic and like, hey, maybe you're cool, but I don't know. And in the past, it's just kind of been like, done.
Yeah.
So that's
Just like
not cool.
stop all communication.
Yeah. Yeah. Like
I've moved out of the country.
kind of. Yeah. Or like really, I have like moved, to different states or different. And so then it's just kind of done.
Mhm.
Right. I think for me, when there was a particularly rough patch of time and I was like in my stuff and I would just perseverate and I couldn't get out of the,
What does perseverate
like
mean?
to just like keep on talking about like the same thing that over and over,
Oh,
like
okay.
I get in this loop and the whole dumping thing,
Mhm.
like I would just dump and it was not pretty and not
Mhm.
awesome for for my friends that were dealing with me at the time.
Like,
Mhm.
oh, we're talking about this
Right.
again.
Yes. Oh, great. And so, but totally unaware of like that
Yeah.
anybody else had like that they had a life.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it was all about you.
Yes.
Yeah.
It sure was.
Yeah. I've been there before too.
Yeah. It is not.
It's so embarrassing.
yeah. And then you come out of it and you're
Oh,
like,
God.
oh, that
I
is
sucked.
I'm in debt to you forever. Yeah. Yeah. So that's how that shows up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, you know, do what you can.
That's how it
Live
goes.
and learn.
Make your amend if you need to and
Yeah.
see what happens and move right on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Try not to be a D-bag. All right.
True.
So true.
Right.
So conflicts.
Conflict.
Like, are they all bad? Like, let's talk about this.
I do not think that they're all bad. I think if people are throwing their stuff around, I think then they can be painful. But I think we need conflict. We just need it. And so
I feel like rupture and repair is like something I do just parenting. And I only know that it's called rupture and repair because of you, Erin.
Right.
I knew nothing
You're
about
teaching
this
us all the
concept.
things.
Yeah.
Right.
But now I know there's a term for it. And I feel like even with my kids, like, you know, like I'll get sad lately or I'll get angry or, you know, I just have these like human emotions, you know, that are not at all about them. But it's like, I want them to know, you know, like, hey, yeah, mom's having these feelings and like, this has nothing to do with you guys.
Yes.
But like, I want to acknowledge them and then I want them to know it's okay. And then I want them to know like, I love you. This has nothing to do with you. I'm just having a day and, you know, like, it's okay.
which is great modeling.
Oh, yeah.
Well, thank you. I think it's really important though, because I feel like as a kid, you know, if you see this, like these emotions, but then you're kind of told like, oh, no, everything's fine. Everything's fine.
Mm-hmm.
That's so crazy making.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Like,
Or if they're crying and it's like, oh, you're okay.
Right.
It's like, wait. No, like
yeah.
maybe they're not okay.
Right.
You know, so it's like,
And it's okay not to be okay.
Yes.
Yes.
and like
yes.
letting them know that you can have these hard emotions and I'm going to love you no matter what.
Yeah.
Like that is so powerful to
Yeah.
be like, let's not shut this
Yeah.
SHIT down.
Right.
Like,
Right.
let's walk
Exactly.
through it. I'm going to love you. We're going to do this.
Yeah.
It's fine.
We're going to acknowledge it. We're
Yeah.
going to
Yes.
name it. We're going to like
It's
move
fine.
on.
Yes.
But I guess maybe that's not really rupture and repair. Or is it?
Well, I mean, it's something. So rupture and repair is when you have something in between two people.
Yeah.
Right. And so you rupture the relationship in some sort of way. So it can be small or it can be big, but this is a building block of trust. And so that when you can come back and repair the relationship. And so how we do that is that to create emotional space, like for whatever emotions are kind of there. So what you were talking about.
Okay.
And then focus on the impact. So what did this do? This is how this impacted me whenever whatever the thing went down, right? And then explicitly own all of the part of this. So with your kid, it sounds like that is what you're doing with your kids.
Okay,
It doesn't have to be this like huge, massive blow up, but I think
Okay.
that rupture and repair, I think happens all the time.
Okay.
So when I was coaching high school kids, and if I came down on someone too hard or something happened, then I like check myself. So it's just like a checking of yourself. If you see that someone else is, or you can feel that something is not okay with that person, and then you,
oh, we've done that.
Yeah.
You and me. Yeah.
absolutely, it's a big deal, and then
Yeah.
that helps build builds a stronger sense of
Yeah.
trust. That happened at coffee too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and then when someone comes back and this happened, then sure, it doesn't take away what happened in the incident. Like I still have to work through whatever
Yeah.
the thing is. But the fact that like you've noticed and you can witness that like, this didn't sit very well.
Yeah.
Then that is a huge deal. But it's really hard for people to do this because you have to get like out of your own way
Right.
to be able to be like, hey, I effed up
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
this is what happened. This is
And just
like,
the
are you
vulnerability
okay?
again.
Like,
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and I
Yes.
feel like the ego is usually leading
Yes.
this show if it's like I can't even admit that I was wrong
Right.
because that would be so detrimental to me as a human being by saying I'm wrong.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
you have to have that certain level of healthiness to be
Yeah.
able to say, you know what, I was wrong in this and you know I would like to find a way to make it right.
Yeah.
Right.
But if you can't even entertain that idea, what do you do with that?
Mm-hmm.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Come to see me. That's what you do.
Yeah, another 2-minute hack. Oh, life hacks all over the place. This is
When I have really trouble and hard time owning my own stuff, how do we have a life hack for that? You don't. That's what you do.
we're all about the life hacks today.
Oh,
Yeah, just some
God.
quick little
Right.
fixers.
So on that though, so we talked about, put this somewhere in for about direct communication because
Yeah.
I have thought a lot about this, and the
Yeah.
three of us are very direct with each other.
Yeah.
I am generally very direct in my life, and some people appreciate that, and some people are taken aback by that. And
Yeah.
so
Mhm.
I am curious about what your experience is and why it is or is not important to you two.
Take it away, Anna.
Oh, I'm going first?
You
Okay.
are.
So have we talked about this already?
Not on here, right? Did we?
Not in this episode. We did talk about
Was it last
direct
episode?
communication. Yeah, I think our last episode.
Well, that's how important I think it is.
Yes. Yes. But I think though, to talk about direct communication in context of being a bad friend or
Right.
having these like friendships that don't really work. I mean, it's super important
And very difficult.
and very difficult.
Yeah.
And can like make or break relationships. I mean, and also like if you're in a relationship with someone who has a different level of direct communication or different style or whatever, it might be really challenging.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So, Erin, I know it's like, do you have anything you want to say? Anything that's like,
I think
I
that
don't
it's
know that you're thinking
impossible
about
to do rupture and repair unless you can talk directly about what's happening. And so
Yeah.
it is difficult and it brings up all sorts of anxiety and nervousness with people. And in order to create trust in relationships, if you have said something or you have unintentionally did something, it doesn't mean that you're intentionally trying to hurt the other person. And whether it was intentional or not, if it did hurt the other person, then there needs to be some sort of acknowledgement about that and then owning whatever it is that you did.
yeah,
And so that is a level of direct communication that I
Yes.
think is very uncomfortable for people. And if people can adopt that more, and like we said, oh yeah, we did talk about it because I use don't be a dick.
Right. Right.
And so it's the same thing with this.
Yeah.
Right.
It's aware, it has a lot to do with intention, building
Yeah.
trust. Yes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's real hard to, I mean, this is not an easy thing to do and be like, hey, I think this happened.
but the power of it can be so great.
Massive.
I mean, I think like just trust building is
Yeah.
just like, oh my gosh, it can be,
Mhm.
it can just
Mhm.
really, really, really drive that connection to a whole new level.
Mm-hmm.
So it's easy for me to do with you two, but how do you do it? Like for people, I feel like I'm trying to think about when this would be hard for me to do is like a new friendship or a new relationship where it's like we don't necessarily have that history of having the trust or knowing like this isn't going to sever the relationship or, damage it. Like how do you
take the risk.
take the risk?
And I think that
I think if it's worth it, if the friendship's going to last, or if there is a deeper connection that you're looking for, you have to try to put
I also
yourself
think
out there
that
and be
it's-
vulnerable.
But even if you don't think they're going to be, for me, even if they're not going to be friends and it's the checker at the store, or I like cut someone, not in my car because that's a whole different story, but but if I did something to a stranger and then I was like, oh, sorry,
Right.
like that, I think that goes along.
okay.
It's even like things like just
Owning your stuff.
having awareness around your
Yeah.
stuff.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so
Don't be
and
a
I might-
D.
yeah, don't be a D. And I might be like, oh man, I did this thing I can't believe I said
Okay.
this or whatever. And if it's bothering me, it may have nothing to do. The other person will be like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
You know?
But if it's got a hook in you,
Yes.
if you
then
can't
address
stop thinking
that.
about it,
Yeah.
that's a good.
And then say
Okay.
like,
That's a
hey,
good
when I said
yeah.
this, or send them a text or whatever the thing is. Or next time you see them, when I said this or this came up,
Like you did.
I don't know how this set with you. And so it didn't feel very good for me to say that.
Mm.
So then I was just wanting to check in to see if you're okay.
Yeah.
Erin,
I-
are you a therapist?
I think you might be really good at that.
That was like
Oh my God.
really good role play.
Yeah. Gosh, you're like really good at that.
Oh, I can't get out of the brain. I can't get out
It's
of it.
good.
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah.
Like
Oh
really
my gosh.
good. It's just great. Great
Yeah.
perspective. Thank you.
Yeah, something else I was just thinking as you were explaining that so well and doing that wonderful example is that in friendships or relationships in general, like if they're meant to be, you literally can't do anything wrong.
Keep going.
So, like, I believe in like things being meant to be, right? And like forces kind of outside of us or like a greater energy force kind of guiding us. And I kind of feel like if there are people that are supposed to be in your life or relationships you're supposed to have, like you literally can't do anything wrong. Like you can't push people away that confronting them about something that you messed up about. Like that's not going to be so
detrimental.
Especially if it's like you owning it. Like, I
Yeah.
messed up here.
Yeah, it's like if that's someone that you're supposed to be friends with or have in your life, it's like you can't do anything so bad that it would like
Sever ties.
Yeah, does that make
or
sense?
someone reject
Yeah.
you, or absolutely.
Okay, because I feel
And
like
I think that with that said, like there is still like the care of a relationship.
Oh yeah,
But
and that's not
yes,
to say that
yes.
you have to just like set it and forget it, or like
Yeah.
this is meant to be. It's we're gonna be friends no matter what.
Right.
It's like you have to be a responsible person in a relationship
Yeah.
and like own your stuff. But like I feel like if you are supposed to be friends with someone or you're supposed to have a certain
Mm-hmm.
interaction with
I'm with that.
a relationship, then it's like you can't do anything wrong in a sense.
Right.
Mhm.
That's the same. I think about that a lot with decision making. And
Okay.
so when people come and they're like, I just feel so stuck, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And you can't make a wrong decision. Just go with however that in that path that takes you, and you eventually like wind up
Yeah.
back where you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
But maybe you needed to learn this thing over here, or maybe you needed this
Yes.
type of experience so it could help you further along.
Mm-hmm.
Not that people have a predetermined, like, this is the path that you're going to take, but I don't think that you can take, at least I don't believe that. I think that we have choice, but yeah, I think
Yeah.
that it's along the same.
Like there's
lines.
purpose in every
Yes,
decision.
absolutely.
Yeah. Just recently, I was telling Amy, I'm like, oh gosh, I'm so glad I didn't get what I wanted. Like years
I
ago,
know you
Yeah.
I was
did.
like,
Yeah.
man,
Yeah.
I don't know what I was
what
thinking
you thought
about
you
that.
needed.
Yeah,
You were
Yeah.
singing Garth Brooks,
yeah,
unanswered prayers.
yeah. But just like you can't do anything wrong if you're supposed to get
Yeah.
to a certain point. We're getting deep here.
Conflict, are they necessary? I think we're good, right? All right. So there was a great article on how to apologize, and it was from Harriet Lerner, PhD, the author of The Dance of Connection.
Ooh,
Yeah. So
Yep.
I'll read these 9 tips. Number 1, a true apology does not include the word but. So a true apology wouldn't be something like, I'm sorry, but.
Because it negates everything before
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Number 2, a true apology keeps the focus on your actions and not on the other person's response.
that's so hard.
So you got to own it.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3, a true apology does not overdo. It stays focused on acknowledging the feelings of the hurt party without overshadowing them with your own pain or remorse.
That is so important.
Yeah,
Yes.
because then it's not making it about you.
Yeah.
Whenever someone is like did something to you and they're sorry about what happened and they have so much shame about what they did, and then it always goes into a shame spiral when they're talking about whatever it is, however they hurt you, and it's like,
yeah.
what is happening here?
Yeah.
Literally, what is happening?
What is happening
Yes.
here?
Yes.
Good Lord. All right. Let's see. Number 4, a true apology doesn't get caught up in who's to blame or who started it. Number 5, a true apology needs to be backed by corrective action.
Yes, it
that's
does.
good.
Oof, that's good. Number 6, a true apology requires that you do your best to avoid a repeat performance. Number 7, a true apology should not serve to silence another person. For example, I said I'm sorry at least 10 times, so why are you still bringing up the affair?
Yep.
Youch.
And you can like forgive someone and not forgive the action.
You can also think you're forgiving someone and then you're really holding on to it. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, it's like
Yeah, that's true.
you want to so bad, but like it takes work to really forgive, I think.
And ultimately, forgiveness is not about the other person. Forgiveness is about you letting go of whatever that thing is. So it's not holding you down forever. And it doesn't, I think people so often get confused that forgiveness is about making it okay that, oh, it's okay that this person did this thing. And it's not okay that you can, they are not mutually exclusive. You can forgive them and it's still not okay that that happened. And if you did rupture and repair, right, then you can move forward from it.
Yeah.
In some cases.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Number 8, a true apology should not be offered to make you feel better if it risks making the hurt party feel worse. Number 9, a true apology recognizes when I'm sorry is not enough.
What do you think of those?
They're good.
I think they're real good.
I think they're really good. Definitely. And I think it's just like, you got to be a bigger person. You know, I mean, if you're saying sorry and that's true and authentic to what you're feeling, or we're hearing some things upstairs. I think it's just people walking around.
Okay.
Yeah, creaky. We are recording in a very old building.
Yeah.
And sometimes there are some interesting noises.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, I think those are really good.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Should we move on to the
Yeah.
next one? It says we've got there's an article here about 7 types of toxic people and how to spot them.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what's the difference between like toxic and just bad, or are they exactly the same? What do you two think?
Well, I think it's toxic is that if every time I can ask you these questions.
Oh, okay.
Oh, let's hear it.
Let's do that.
Right? Okay. So from this article, and it says these are questions to ask yourself. And so I think bad is a period of time, right? And toxic is like, this is just the pattern of the relationship, probably because someone is transmitting their suffering all over everyone. Okay. So questions.
So this is from thescienceofpeople.com.
Yeah, we'll post this in all the show notes. Okay. So are you constantly having to save this person or fix their problems? You are covering up or hiding for them. You dread seeing them. You feel drained after being with them. You get angry, sad, or depressed when you are around them. They cause you to gossip or be mean. You feel you have to impress them. You are affected by their drama or their problems. They ignore your needs and don't hear no.
Oh.
Oof.
Right.
Wow.
And so I think those are the questions to ask yourself. Because bad could be a period of time, right? And that someone's not able to show up for whatever reason. But I think when that consistently happens with that person, it's worth looking at. Like for me, I know that people can be toxic if I am the worst version of myself. Like, oh, how do I do that? Like, how did this happen?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, why am I acting like this
Yes.
again?
Oh.
Yes.
Like, oh, here I am hanging out with that person again.
And I can't like stop myself
Yeah.
from behaving that way. And
Yeah.
it feels terrible.
Yes.
Even in midst of it, but it's like energetically interwoven with that, with
Yeah.
whatever it is with the dynamic with that person. That's
Interesting.
how I know that I'm like, oh, this feels bad.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good.
Right. So to pay attention to red flags with toxic relationships. So is it fear or is it a red flag? So red flags, if you ask yourself the questions that we just said, if you feel like you need to protect the other person or omit details about the situation, your body knows. So if you are trying to convince yourself of one thing and then your body is like freaking out or panicking or sweating or whatever is happening where it shows signs of anxiety, or you're clenching
Physiologically.
Yeah, physiologically, that your body will know before your mind does.
Whoa.
So you have a sinking feeling that you don't want to pay attention to. That happens a lot to people. Sometimes something just doesn't sit right with you and you may not be able to name whatever the thing is.
Uh-huh.
And the bottom line of all of this is to listen to your gut because it is rarely wrong. Not when it is a fear thing. So it's important to pay attention. What is fear? So that will be like, is different than in your gut and in like the middle of your body, some like nagging internal thing.
Yeah.
That tells you that this is not the right situation.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I noticed that this one about like the draining. Wait, is it draining? Or do you feel like sad? So there's someone that I won't get into too many of the details, but I noticed that I stopped telling them about exciting things happening in my life.
Oh.
And it was like, oh man, because I found that I would tell them exciting things, like call them with like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. Oh my God. Blah.
Yeah.
And then I would like end the call with like, oh, womp womp.
Yeah.
And it was like, all right, maybe I need to lessen my interaction with this person. And I stopped calling them when I was happy.
Right.
That's a sign of a toxic relationship.
That's right.
Yeah.
Ding, 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 ding.
Right.
Yeah. And so I ended up taking a break, and it ended up being a really good thing. And then I could kind of have a pause and have that, the power of the pause there again, and just kind of having
New perspective.
a new perspective and some like a fresh boundary, I guess, as far as like, you know what, this isn't serving me to show up in this happy state when I know it's not going to continue or be, encouraging.
So do you think that, like, for some of these things, is it different than just run-of-the-mill bad relationships?
Yeah.
So I think the thing to ask is this person adding to my life or is it taking away from my life on the whole?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then something else is like, what if, okay, this would be really bad, but like we have to ask this if we're going to be, having this conversation. Like, what if you're the toxic one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so we talked about earlier, like if you keep running into the situation of like these different people being like toxic or like these same patterns are showing up. It's like, okay, what if I'm the toxic person in this situation? Like what I've found with toxic people, and like, how do I know if I'm being the toxic person is, am I the common denominator with all of these relationships that are going south? It's like, oh man, every single person I'm talking to is a total D-bag today. It's like, oh really?
Well,
Or am I the D-bag?
I see. That's a good filter.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, everybody's horrible today. Well, maybe not. Maybe it's me. Maybe I need to do a reset here. So... And I guess that wouldn't be so much toxic as like I'm being a bad person today.
All right. So boundaries. Ooh, good one. We have a little note here about being a good friend doesn't mean being a doormat. We teach people how to treat us. Yeah. That's a good topic. What do you guys think about that one?
Well, I wrote it down, so I really think it's...
I bet you've got some ideas. Take it away, Aaron.
No, Anna was going good.
Oh, I was going to say, I can't help but think about my wonderful sister-in-law, Ashley. She is really, really great at boundaries, and she taught us how to treat her. Like, she's someone who I'm like, this is acceptable with her. This is not acceptable. Not like I'm going around being like, it makes it sound like I've got all these bad habits or something, but it's like certain things are okay and certain things are not. And like she's someone who had really clear boundaries about what she would and would not accept. And like, I really respect that.
That's awesome.
So it's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to Ashley.
Yay, Ashley. Maybe she can come and
have a conversation.
Be a visitor.
That's
yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Talk to her. Talk to us about her boundaries.
So this makes me think about why I think our coffee worked so well.
Yeah.
Is because that we are 3 healthy people and that we came together. And so that creates a healthy relationship. And I think a lot of that was having good boundaries around just about our friendship and what we kept in the circle and all of that. Mm-hmm. And I think that is, we need boundaries. I think people get afraid of them. And I think we talked at some point about barriers and boundaries. And so it's not necessarily having walls up. It's like boundaries are just like you can see over a fence, right? In boundaries, most cases, we need boundaries to know where I start and where I'm finished and you start and where you were finished and I start.
Yeah. They definitely aid in the safety feeling. Right. Well, and it's funny. So we're super, super excited about the podcast, and we started talking about the podcast a ton during our coffee meetings, and I had to send a text to you two and be like, can we not talk about the podcast?
That was a good call.
That was, I was like, Anna, good job.
Boundary Anna.
Can I get a high five?
Yeah. Good job. That's right. When we set boundaries with people and pulling it back into the toxic friendships and relationships is that to be aware if people are not respectful of the creep. And so when we set boundaries and people, like if you think about a dog in a kitchen, like if your dog's not allowed in the kitchen and then they're standing at the edge or they're sitting at the end of the kitchen and then you go stir your pot or whatever and then you come back and you're like, oh, their paws are in here. And then you go back and do something else and then all of a sudden like they're halfway in the kitchen. And so I think with people, so with dogs, right? So it's an easy example, but with people, I think it's important to pay attention to that.
Yeah.
Right.
So how would that look like? What would that look like as like in a person version? I loved the dog example, but
right, with people, right. That was just an easy one. With people, if you don't want to talk about certain...
Well, you could even talk about like our coffee, right? So the boundary was like, okay, let's not talk about the podcast during the coffee.
Right.
But then it's like we could kind of easily get things to kind of creep back in, like scheduling or, like something kind of comes in and then all of a sudden that here we are, it's coffee and we're talking about the podcast.
Yeah.
Yes. So
like the slippery slope.
It's a slope. Yeah.
Well, and we were so excited about the podcast. It was like, okay, let's talk about it all the time. Okay.
Yes. But I think that's like maybe a small example. But
Yeah.
Right. And so the next point on here is that so with toxic people is that they won't stop. So like we can call attention to the fact that like, hey, we're doing it again. And we're like, oh shoot.
yes.
Oh,
yeah.
Stop it.
Redirect.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then if we wouldn't stop that, or like you set a boundary, like I need you to, I don't even have one off the top of my head.
Well, it's like, okay, let's not talk about this situation or this whatever situation or thing. And then we keep talking about it. Then it'd be like, well,
Right.
is that then in toxic zone?
Not
Or bad?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
It's not like black
within
and
the
white.
boundaries. Yeah.
Or like someone giving you advice on some relationship you're in, and you're like, no, that's not your.
Yes.
Yeah.
You don't need to be giving me advice on that relationship.
doing it.
And then they keep doing it.
Oh.
And
Yes.
it's like that to me is toxic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And then
Well, that goes back to they're not hearing your no. And they're
That
not
too.
hearing you.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. So
Mhm.
toxicity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's that. And if eventually, if the boundaries of that is that you may need to set up a barrier
Mm-hmm.
and kick them to the curb.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I'm saying that lightly, but sometimes it's not super easy. But I think that sometimes we just need to do that.
All right. So we're going to leave you here with a few things. The first is practical tips. How do you get out of toxic or bad relationships?
Decrease interaction.
Yep.
And or step out of it completely.
Yeah. And the notes here we have are boundaries, say no, and create space from the
Yep.
person. So
I actually have had to work on this saying no thing because I tend to be a people pleaser as like my default. So I have like this PDF that I'll make available to everyone, and it's how to say no, all these different ways to like turn down things and get out of different situations. So how to say no. So I had to make a cheat sheet for myself. And
I think a lot of people
I'll
struggle
share
with
that.
that.
yeah, good for you.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
it's like, here's how I can say
Here's your
this.
anchor.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Someday
hold on,
you're
I
gonna
gotta
be
pull my
you're gonna
Google
be
Doc.
like your own Dear Abby.
Oh, dear Anna.
Dear Anna.
Oh.
Yeah, just like Dear Abby affected you that we learned about in our first episode.
Yeah.
But pretty soon people are going to be like, Dear Anna,
How do I say no?
how do I say no?
Let me check my Google Doc.
Yeah,
I have a PDF for you. Here you go.
That's right.
yeah,
Wow.
exactly.
All right.
Captain Resource.
All right,
Captain
so
I love resources.
Yep.
any awareness challenge we want to end with or anything else we want to say about practical tips?
Yeah. So, like the nugget, we have a nugget. We have a dense nugget.
A dense nugget again.
Awareness challenge
Oh,
with the I
yeah.
statements.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I think we should do I statements. Aaron, do you have an example?
I statements. I talk about these a lot here. Okay. So I feel statements in very basic communication with people, and that when we were having issues,
Yes.
or generally with other people, if I come at you and tell you you did this and you did that and you're whatever, right?
Mhm.
People, no one, if someone comes at me like that, is ever going to listen to you.
It's going to
Yeah.
be super productive.
Yeah, it'd be great. You should just continue blaming the other person.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's not what we're talking about. So if I had, so we had the podcast, right? So Anna and I were at the coffee shop and we were
There we go again.
planning this episode. And so I was talking about I feel statements. And so Anna has a lot of things in her head that I would like to help with, but sometimes she gets very one-track focused, right?
Yes, this is
Do you
true.
agree with this? Yeah.
Yes, I do.
And so I was like, hey, I want to do more. I want to be able to help more. And Anna was like, okay. And I'm like, and then we come up. So then that was at the beginning of the conversation. And then we come to this, like, okay, what's our nugget going to be for the episode? And then I said, well, we could talk about I feel statements. And Anna was like, okay, well, tell me what those are. And so then I was like, well, Anna, I feel helpless when you do not tell me what's happening in your head
Yeah.
and allow me. No, actually, it was like, I feel helpless when you do not allow me to help you.
Yes.
Ah.
Yes.
Very
And
succinct.
I was able to hear her.
Yes.
And I said, okay, that's good to know.
You can do these tasks.
And then later on, I was like, actually, here's some more tasks you can do.
And I was like, oh, that was a very effective.
I feel you
statement.
gave me too many tasks.
She's like, great, I'll give it all to you.
No, I did not.
I know, I'm just kidding.
Aaron.
I know. No. Yeah. So I feel
Yeah.
statements. So in setting boundaries, so I think that a good place to know that when your boundaries have been crossed or you need need to set boundaries is to look to see where you have been resentful
Mm.
or where you feel resentful and you're continually pissed about something.
So
And
good.
so it could be dishes, or it's because when someone comes home at night, they don't get up to greet you, or you always have to take out the trash, or whatever the thing is. It could be something easy or something that you've been stewing on for a while.
That's good.
And so what are the things that are that one thing, because we don't need to get into all our resentments,
Yeah.
right? So one
this is going
thing
to be a really
and then
big
set a
one.
boundary. So if we take the dishes, for example.
Okay, so Anna and Aaron, you guys just had a great example of the I statement that Aaron, you figured out how to say to Anna when you needed her to tell you how you could help.
Yes.
Right? So that's a great example of the nugget for the week.
Right.
It's like, where in your life could you say an I statement to help someone help you?
Yeah.
Really? I mean, that's what it's about, right? So you own it, and then you need to also like directly communicate to ask
Mhm.
for what it is that someone might be able to do to help you. So let's just
Let's
see
think.
how that goes.
Good job, Amy.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
see how that goes.
Yeah, that's a
for
great
people.
one.
All right.
Awesome.
I'll take it on.
Yep. Take it
Cool.
on. See how it
Sid?
goes.
Yep.
All right. All right, everybody. We're coming to the end of the show and got our nugget for the week. So let's leave with that. We'd love to hear your feedback, thoughts, questions, comments, everything.
Yeah.
All the things.
All the things
Yeah.
on our website, all our social media platforms.
Yeah. Connect with us.
Connect.
Please.
And then, yeah, totally. Also, before you say peace,
What?
did you just say peace?
No.
No, I just totally heard that. I was like, wait, don't say peace yet. Okay, so you can go to lessalonepodcast.com for the show notes and transcript.
Great.
All right.
Thank you, Anna. Yes.
Peace.
All right,
What are we saying?
everybody.
Peace.
I don't know.
What is
I
peace?
could have heard you. I swear.
For your signing off of the show.
I could have sworn you said peace.
Well,
I was hearing
okay.
things.
So there's that.
All right, everybody.
Bye.
Have a great week.
Peace.
Bye.
I was like, why is she saying peace already?
Thanks for listening. You can find more about this episode and a way to connect to the community at lessalonepodcast.com. And if you like us, don't forget to subscribe and be sure to leave a review. It helps other people find us and could be just what they need.